Okay. I thought today was really cool to see so many guys step up, take advantage of their opportunities. I thought the coaches did a really good job putting guys in good spots. I thought Nate called a really good game. I thought both Giff and Joe did an excellent job calling a good game as well, getting the operation. Thought we were fairly clean, minimized a lot of the penalties, and guys, the style of play was there. I thought Stetson did a nice job with the two series. We had the first series where they got their big dogs in there, and we end up having to punt. But I thought he came in, did a nice job of orchestrating a nice drive on the second series. And then I thought Ty had great command all day. He was able to get through good progressions, got a lot of different guys involved. I thought, he and Nate were really in sync. Were able to move the launch point. I thought the line did a really good job, especially in some of those later drives that ended up leading to touchdowns, where he had good protection, where he was able to get through some progressions. And that the one sequence where we got the defensive stop, have a big return by Xavier Smith, and then ultimately we're able to hit Dean Connors on the screen. I thought that was kind of the momentum flip of the game, but man, it was really cool to be able to see so many guys step up and do a nice job, and excited for them.
Settled in the way Ty did and started getting better and more confident driving the ball a little more downfield. What does that tell you about him, and in terms of the moment not being too big for him, and then also just settling in?
I think all of those things that you really just asked with the question, Vinny, kind of answers it itself, where he really settled in, did a great job. I think it's a tremendous credit to, just the way that he's worked. Dave Ragone does such a great job with that room as a whole. And obviously Matthew's leadership. And I thought Nate really did a nice job of putting him in a lot of good spots that accentuate his skill sets. But the other 10 guys around him were able to do their job. We were able to kind of sustain, get some first downs, be efficient on early downs that allows some other stuff. And you kind of have that, good balance. And Nate stayed aggressive on the early downs, which gave Ty an opportunity to deliver. And he did that. But very pleased with him. And it's a real credit to a lot of good work. And whether today went really great or whether it was a great learning opportunity, we continue to move forward, but I thought it was a great step in the right direction for him. Very happy for him.
There's a decision that's officially been made on a backup quarterback, but does this change anything?
We continue to evaluate. I think really you have to be considerate of what kind of situations was he placed in, and I thought with the circumstances that he was placed in, he did a nice job with those parameters. Obviously, Ty had the majority of the game, got 25 attempts to be able to throw the football, but I thought he did a really good job, overall, and I thought Stetson with what he had. So we're going to continue to evaluate it like anything else, but it was fun to be able to see, live football, see how guys handled it. We haven't played tackle football in a long time. I mean, shoot, I got to get I was a little rusty myself. I went and started to shower before I came in here. Normally I was like, oh shoot, I forgot I got to do the press conference. So it was awesome though. And really it's cool to be able to kind of step back and appreciate how many great people that I'm surrounded with our coaching staff. I thought Bubba and Kyle did a great job with special teams. Smash ball with just the communication from up top situationally is awesome. And it was great to be able to get back out here and ultimately just be a good cheerleader for these guys today.
Max Clare was reliable throughout the whole afternoon. What did you like about what?
Just that, Stu. He had a bunch of catches, had a bunch at the end of the first half and kind of that 2 minute. And, but I thought he did a really good job. He's getting a lot of work right now. Scooter Huff does an excellent job with that room as a whole. It's cool for Valari to be able to get that return on the onside kick at the end of the game. But Max did a really nice job. It was a good step for him. You know what? He told me he felt his hamstring on the first field goal protection. So he was pretty bummed. I'm hopeful that he'll be okay, Gary, but don't have any updates. He'll get a scan. We'll see. But I was bummed out for him for that to have happened. And I think Mario Williams got a hamstring on his kick return. Those were the only guys that I know, got something in the game and didn't return that can come to mind. Anybody else come to mind for you, Artis? Yeah, those are the only guys that come to mind. So hopefully they'll be all right. I hate that part of it.
What did you like in particular about the way he picked and chose his spots as far as when to push the ball downfield versus taking one?
I thought he took what the defense gave him. I thought he read the plays out, read with his feet. I thought he did a really good job overall. And I thought even on some of the keepers where maybe the primary isn't there, he attacks with the ball up. Even on the first one that he had where he ends up finding Max Clare on kind of the late down flat, but hit a couple low crossing routes. And I thought he kept the ball in play. That's the biggest thing is keeping the ball in play. There was one situation that we'll have a great learning op on a third down where, they kind of played a man coverage. We ended up throwing it to the flat to Max Clare. I got to see, I think the pocket might have allowed him to be able to progress, but otherwise it was a really good day for him. He just felt like he was in good command, and it was cool to see a good smile on his face.
Early on, there was kind of made a pretty nice play on it.
Yeah.
To make sure that it didn't turn into a bad play. What were your thoughts on the
That's what I said. I said, way to not make a bad play worse. I couldn't exactly see where that hit him, but it was the first third down that he's in. That was right before he had hit a good job, finding Max Clare on that keeper that I was kind of just mentioning. But sometimes the best play is being able to just throw it away and bring the kicking unit on to be able to punt it away. And I thought, that was a good illustration. I thought he made good, smart decisions. We always talk about decision, timing, and accuracy, and I thought that was on display. And I think the protection allowed him to be able to get through progressions. Even on a quick game that we had, he got across the board, found Dean Connors for a good check down that Dean ended up having a good catch and run. Then on one, we had a front side combination. He progressed to be able to hit CJ Daniels on an in cut, ended up hitting BP on kind of a crossing route on a 3-level throw off the play action. So there was a lot of really good illustrations of him just being able to play the play and be able to execute it, the way that Dave and the other guys are coaching him to be able to do it.
What does Dean show you?
Dean showed me that, it certainly isn't too big for him. You felt him out there today. I think sometimes that's one of the positives that I could say is you just feel somebody make their presence, whether that's a defense or an offensive guy. But, when he got the ball, there was a change of pace. And, you felt like, okay, this guy's got a chance to be able to create. Thought he did that in the run game. And then obviously, really cool. It was great blocking on the screen that he scored on, but it was a great job by him to be able to set those blocks. And then a great job by him on the touchdown catch. It was a good job by him kind of being able to recognize the defender overran it, be able to take the in cut on a little option route that we had, and really happy for Dean. These are fun to see these men, all these guys make a lot of plays that don't get a ton of opportunities in practice, and man, it's fun to celebrate them.
You said you're going to give Aaron his time.
Yep.
But you guys are getting closer to
Yeah.
roster decisions and others.
Yep.
Do you anticipate Aaron making decisions?
You know what? Here's what I would say. It's really, we've had great dialogue. It's going to be on his timeline, and when he feels good about having clarity, whether that's a yes or whether that ends up being a no. We've had some tentative discussions behind the scenes. There's a lot of stuff without getting too granular with it, and just out of respect for, the dialogue that he and I have, that I do think he's earned the right. I think our guys are doing a great job of focusing on what they can control, and that's our current team as it stands right now. If Aaron does decide he wants to do it, I've been very open that we want to try to be able to explore that opportunity. But I think he has kind of earned the right to be able to say, like, he knows himself in terms of, am I able to stack back-to-back days? Am I able to do some of the different things and some of those benchmarks that he set out for himself? And what I don't want to sit here and do is put a timeline on it, and then something comes up where I've got to kind of push it back. What I have said with him, we have some loose things where we've identified, dates that we'd like to be able to hit. But what I don't want to have is any sort of unnecessary pressure on him if there's some unforeseen circumstances. I feel great about our football team as it currently stands, and I know he'll add value if he decides to come. And so if he's put himself in a position to be able to say yes or no, I think he's earned the right to have clarity on that. We're not at that point quite yet, and I'm hopeful that it'll be sooner than later, but I also want to respect when he does feel like that clarity will come, and I think there's a chance that we'll be closer to that than not. But again, I don't want to say too much or put some sort of invisible deadline on something that doesn't exist in my mind for him. Okay, thanks guys.
How are y'all? Felt great. Felt great.
Felt like you got, understandably so, it's your first NFL game. Felt like you got comfortable as the game went on. Is that how you read it?
Yeah, no doubt. I definitely felt more comfortable than I ever had in a game, but I also didn't know what to expect. First NFL game, first live NFL, against NFL teams. But once that first drive kind of, got done with, I was like, all right, this is just like playing in the backyard in Martin. But guys did a great job. So happy for our team, and on to next week.
Did you know going in you were going to go in the third series? What was the plan? Yeah,
I knew pretty quickly that I was going to go in. They communicated that with us, me and Stetson, and I just was making sure that I was ready to go at all times.
There's a great infrastructure around here, and it kind of leads to a quarterback-friendly type of a system. I think you would agree with that probably. Do you feel that in the game, like when those plays are coming in and the type of plays that you guys are running, that this is perfect?
Absolutely. It starts from the top, starts with Sean. Nate and the offensive staff did a great job. But also credit to the guys of understanding our game plan, understanding where to line up, and kind of our separators, as we call it there on offense, how we can separate from the other team. And they, hit them all on the head. And that was our, big thing going into the game of just hitting our separators. And I think we, did a really good job in that. And that's what kind of, led us to, get points on the board.
That play early, the snap was high and to your right. Kind of didn't make a bad play worse. But can you take us through kind of what happened on that play and what you're thinking was?
We had a pass play called, of course, but it was a high and hot snap, and just kind of got to handle it down. Last thing you want to do is try to do too much and turn the ball over and get points for the other team. We have a great punter in Ethan Evans and a great special teams unit, and our defense was playing great. So hey, just throw it out of bounds, punt the ball. Any drive that ends with a kick is a good drive. So that's what I kind of take into the game.
Do you have any family members here today?
Yeah.
Who made the trip?
Yeah, so my mom and my dad made it. My brother made it. One of my dad's former players made it, who's a really tight family member of ours. I had my dad's strength assistant fly him here, so it was really cool. I saw him, when I was in pregame. They were yelling like crazy. I waved at them, and so I'm excited to go see him after.
Did your dad, when the schedule came out, and realized what day this game was?
Oh yeah,
He
he finesses the situation for sure. I hate it for the guys at UT Martin, but I appreciate the sacrifice that him and the guys do for me.
What were the conversations like with family before they got here? Like, did they have a sense that maybe you would play as much as you did today, or were you just kind of honest with them that you were like, I don't know?
Yeah, no, I knew I was going to play, and I told them, I was like, hey, I'm going to play a good portion of the game. And my dad just talked to me like I was 4 years old again. Just hey, just catch every snap, make the easy ones easy, and go do what you love. And I love you. He sends me a Bible verse every day, every time, and just a quote to give glory back to him. And it was just really cool. It's something I felt calm, felt really comfortable, and especially when I have family members texting me, it's a comforting feeling.
It seems like you had a good connection with Max Clare today. Can you explain kind of how that evolved through the game?
Well, one, I try to get the best players the ball, and Max is a really good player, and that's why I try to, get the ball out as quickly as I can because I know we got a bunch of playmakers. But it was just kind of the situation that happened. Max is a hot hand there. He's really worked really hard, especially during camp. Going with a bunch of the offenses, and just trying to take what the defense gives me. A lot of times, Max does a really good job with his routes, and that's kind of how it happened really.
As you said, you knew you were going to play a lot today, and hopefully that continues the rest of this preseason. But at some point, that picture is going to change a little bit. For obvious reasons, again, Matthew being the starter. How do you compartmentalize that, and how do you then approach that, whatever the role is going to be moving forward?
Yeah, my mindset doesn't change at all. I'm still going to, try to prepare like I'm going to play because you never know what happens. I say that all the time, just because of, past experiences with me. And, if anything, right, like I'm trying to soak up as much knowledge as I can. And what better guy to do it from than, Matthew. So, I'm going to try to prepare as best I can and make sure, I ask, all the questions that I need to go in there and have confidence because, if his helmet snaps off or something happens, right, I got to go in there, execute, and make sure that our offense doesn't, take a dip.
Sean said that they're still evaluating the backup role. Do you feel like you are in competition with Stetson for that, or do you feel like he's kind of the front runner?
Yeah, I really don't get into that, honestly. I'd really just try to, be the best version of myself I can be and, compete with myself. A lot of the times I get, people get caught up in, who's better than who and, who is, going to get this spot and stuff. But at the end of the day, right, like, I'm just trying to, prepare me for the future and try to, be sack days and, be progressive and have progress. So, that's not up to me. That's, a headman decision and, executive decision. But I just know that, I'm happy to be here and I'm, working and going to make sure that, I do anything the team needs me to do.
You guys executed a really good screen pass for that touchdown. How big was that? Just for you to maybe settle down a little bit, or just get that thing out of the way?
Yeah, it was huge. One, it got us, points on the board, so that's very important. But what was really cool is that a lot of people don't really understand, but the guys up front did a really good job. Dylan going out there and taking 2 people out so Dean can hit it up in the hole and score. And a great play call by Nate in the red zone where people don't really expect a screen. It just was an all around great job. And it started with the guys up front. Literally all I did was flick a ball out there, but it wouldn't have happened without a collaborative effort. Awesome. Thank you, Jim.